Okay, now that you know the tools, let's start sketching. Now, before we start, like a sketch that is a little bit bigger, like the one that I'll do today, what I think is a good idea, it's if you do a few smaller iterations, like sketches like that are a little bit smaller than the ones that we will do today, so you can have an idea of what you want to do. But for today, for me, it's actually pretty clear. I really like the idea of having a spaceship that has this kind of like bubbly cockpit and it's a little bit more rounded with horizontal wings and a vertical stabilizer at the back that also contains some sort of cutout for the engine. So because I already like this idea and I did a couple of sketches and we'll just focus on the process, I want to do something similar to that. And yeah, so let's get to it. Now the first thing that I do is I start with a basic perspective grid. This is really not a super accurate grid at all. It's just to have an idea. And if you are going to like move on to rendering the design afterwards or painting it in Photoshop or whatever, what you can do is just make sure like correct the perspective on your software of choice. Um, what I tend to do is just trust that it's good enough, and usually unless there is like some really bad mistakes regarding the perspective, I don't fix it at all. I just paint as it is. Because if you take a look, I'm using quite a long lens, so there's not a lot of distortion, which helps in case there's minor perspective mistakes. And also something that I need to point out is that I put a bleed sheet underneath my worksheet so that the marker doesn't bleed through the page. Some sketchbooks they handle markers pretty well. I think this one is kind of a middle of the road kind of paper, so it doesn't handle the marker super well. It bleeds through a little bit, but it also doesn't wrinkle the page a lot while I'm sketching. So yeah, I think like I feel more comfortable using the page underneath it. Now, the first step here is to sketch the rough shapes and proportions that I want. Basically, the idea will be to have something similar to what we had there, just a little bit more refined in terms of design. So I'm focusing on proportions at first. So what are the volumes that I need to have, and how the shape behaves as as a 3D object, basically, and where I want the flow of the lines to go. Right. Basically, I want to have a almost like a fish shape where it's a little bit heavier at the top and then gets thinner at the bottom. And I want to have a cutout, kind of like a little bit above the center of the spaceship. And then we can forget the wobbly cockpit. Now, what I want for the cockpit is for it to kind of continue this vertical shape here, but with an offset, almost as if it's poking out of the shape. And I want it to poke out on the top as well. So what if you draw the cross section here, it will be kind of like one rounded shape and then another one sitting on top of that because I want this doubling of the curves here. I think it will create a nice movement, and you can seamlessly flow that into the body of the spaceship as it moves towards the back. And then this center line will pick up on that vertical because you see here like I'm flowing the body downwards by the back. And then the center line will just barely dip and then pick up again on that vertical stabilizer that we had. Now, I think it would be a good idea if we make this a little bit taller as well. So it kind of like pokes. If you look from the front view, it will poke a little bit out of the front view of the cockpit. And then you can see like this line at the back will probably go to waste because it's a design choice that I don't want to commit to. Like I just changed the design there. And what helps out a lot in visualizing the shapes as well is if you do this sort of cross-section drawing. Of course, this is all learned from the How to Draw book from Scott Robertson. You can see that my style is heavily influenced by him, which is not a bad thing at all. Oh yeah, by the back here, what I think I want to do is a shape that it's thin at this like top fin, then it gets a little bit thicker and gets thin again. So this little bit of shape here will actually be on the center line. So this looks more like if we're going for the fish kind of shape, let's like go full out on it and commit to that idea. And then I can just, same way that I pop this here, I'm popping the front shape as well to create a nice cockpit. Our little bubbly cockpit. Yeah, on the front I'll also flow it around here. And because I'm creating this overlap of two similar shapes, what this gives me is the opportunity to add more like detail on this area. So I'm tracing the lines just to see where they would align because I want to open a maybe like a small air intake right on the side here. And maybe this air intake like flow downwards a little. Yeah. Because I don't quite like the idea of having it be exactly on the center turn, so I want to extend the shape so it's a bit bigger so that the proportions are nicer, right? And all of this time I'm looking at the proportions of the drawing. So I basically have a large shape, which is the full body of the spaceship. And then I have a medium shape, which is the whole cockpit um, joint shape. So it's made by fuselage and glass, but is a similar shape. And then I have the small shape, the fin and the back. Yeah. I'll add like some small supporting wings here, basically. Just stabilizers. And now at the bottom, I want to have those big wings. So yeah, I'll have to. You'll notice that I distance the camera a little bit more for this take. So that's because I want to be able to rotate the paper. And the reason why you rotate is just so we have a better angle um, to draw from. My usually preferred angle is like diagonals from left to right and bottom to top. That's a movement that my arm makes very naturally and very smoothly. And I trained that for quite a while. But if you have like a different kind of shape that you do more often and more comfortably, like just align your sketchbook to do that. It's just that when we are recording, I find it more comfortable for the viewers if I don't rotate the canvas that much. Before I sketch the wing, I just want to like sketch the engine on this cutout here. So this will be a cylindrical shape. And then I'll add some details to it. And in order to be able to draw like an engine like this and make it look half decent, what you need is just to look at a bunch of references and make sure that you have a visual library that allows you to add believability to this sort of engine. Yeah, at the marker point, you don't need to like work very hard on that. It's just blocking out the shapes and a little bit of the details, or at least the detail placement. And then what I want to do is I don't want to connect the bottom part to the top one, so I'll just wrap the shape there, which means that my spaceship will have a kind of like a gap there. I think that would look nice, and then I can add another like small thing at the bottom there, and one like in the front here. Just very small like details. This will make it look more squarish because I'm basically taking every corner and adding a squared shape to it. But I think it's a nice contrast to the roundness of the whole body. Now I'm blocking the part where the wing meets the fuselage. Yeah, I want to have the wing pointing backwards because I want to continue this rounded square look, and also because I want like quite a big wing. I put myself in a corner here with the sketchbook not being big enough and the sketch itself being quite big. So it's the kind of limitation that it's a bit artificial and self-imposed, but it's fun to deal with, especially if you're doing sketchbook drawings because these are low pressure and you're not doing them for anything other than design exploration and having fun ideas. I think it's quite nice to have this sort of. Let me just mirror that wing over. Now, all of these mirroring techniques, again, go through the Scott Robertson book, and he will show you how to do these. Yeah, basically, that wing will stop there. So, like, this is the shape. So, what I was saying before, I'm basically done with the marker here. We can add the next level details with the pen. But what I meant when I told you that drawing is small sketchbook and low pressure environment is that in pages like these, I start with one of the like maybe the big drawing or one of the corner ones, and afterwards, what you do is you just fill in the blank spaces, and that gives you an opportunity to play the shapes a little bit more. So like this spaceship at the bottom here, that is literally just me trying to fill up the gap that was created between this and the big one. While drawing on the big one, I obviously had more freedom to experiment, and I was thinking more of like proportions and everything. And on this one is a mix of a challenge, right? You need to make something that looks good that fills up that gap, and yeah, that just creates a fun drawing experience. So you don't have to put a lot of pressure on yourself, and you just try to have fun, create cool ideas, so that when you have to do this for work, um, you understand that no matter the challenge, you can actually tackle it quite well. Okay.